television stations and broadcast entities, we are 30 seconds away. 30 seconds away. Broadcast entities, we're 15 seconds out. 15 seconds out. I will give you a 5-second, and then the mayor will walk to the podium. 5.
First, let me start by saying good afternoon to everyone here in the city of Birmingham. I also want to thank the city council for continuing to work with me as we make decisions in the best interest of the residents of the city of Birmingham. In addition to that, I want to thank the public. Now, I'm before you to speak very candidly about how we move forward as a community and as a city. I would like to remind everyone who can hear the sound of my voice and or who are watching this that the city of Birmingham is still under a state of emergency. In addition to that, the state of Alabama is still under a state of an emergency. Just recently, even with the state health officer's new order, the state health officer has reminded Alabamians, which include all of us here in Birmingham, that we are all under a state of an emergency. And because of that, we have to continue to make decisions that are in the best welfare, general welfare, and public health of the residents of this city. Now, there are many things to consider, but the first thing to consider is this. A few weeks back, I reminded the public that as elected officials, we should do less talking and more listening to the health experts. And the decisions we make should be health and data driven. The federal government and the White House a few weeks back issued recommendations to mayors across the nation, county commissioners across the nation, and governors across the nation around what's called Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3 of opening back our economy. In addition to that, before those things are satisfied, the GATE, G-A-T-E, needed to be satisfied. Those 5 things around the GATE included symptoms, data around symptoms, 2, data around cases, 3, data around hospitalization, and then the next 2 things were 4 around testing and 5 around tracking. This information was important before you talked about opening back up our economy, whether it's a local level here in Birmingham or at a state level for any of the 50 states across our nation. And before you, speaking before you as mayor of our city, speaking from a data-driven standpoint or a health standpoint of satisfying those 5 things around testing, tracking, hospitalization, cases, as well as symptoms, the only one that I can share with you in full confidence that's backed by data is hospitalization. Those other 4 things have not been met with data for me to stand before you, the public, residents of this city, and say, we are safe. You can go out here and do what you want because you don't have to worry about the COVID-19. That is not the case. And because of that, I want to share why we're making the decisions we've made. And so 2 things to consider. We had a shelter-in-place ordinance that was set, a local shelter-in-place ordinance that was set to expire at 11:59 p.m. tonight. The city of Birmingham, the mayor's office, and the council had 3 options. 1, extend the current shelter-in-place order as is, which is 24 hours a day. 2, let it expire. 3, modify it. What we wanted to do was take into account the governor's new order as it relates to all retail being open. And because most retail closes at 9 p.m. or 10 p.m., we did need to be in the business of a 24-hour curfew. And so we've decided, and the council has approved, and again, I want to thank the council for their decision to modify our current stay-at-home order to a 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew. Again, we have a curfew that will be in effect tonight until May 15th from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. This is important, again, as I stated, because this is being driven by not having enough data to share with our public or where we are with the aspect of being under the state of emergency. In addition to that, earlier this week, the council passed a face covering ordinance, and I want to talk about that some more with you. Today's action supports the mandatory face covering ordinance approved by the council earlier this week. The face covering ordinance goes into effect at 1 minute after midnight. And as we begin a slow and measured reopening retail statewide, it is important to remember the risk of this pandemic still remain with us. These actions are not designed to restrict, but to support this reopening. The federal government has set several criteria for a phased reopening, as I stated earlier. And as stated earlier, this includes testing, contact tracing, and hospitalization. And at this moment, because that is not satisfied, we have to realize the following. If you walk out of your home, we have to not only protect the person next to you, but we have to protect these employees that are going back to work. They have to feel comfortable, and you should feel comfortable too, knowing that if we still have a virus that is active and community spread is still an opportunity to happen, then face coverings assist all of us in making sure we can prevent or slow that community spread. Let me be clear. Social distancing of 6 feet is still highly recommended from the federal government to the state and local health officials. The mandatory face covering ordinance is a stopgap in those cases where that is simply not possible. As we witnessed with the shelter-in-place ordinance, we fully expect people to adapt to the mandatory face covering. The face covering doesn't have to be a medical-grade mask or even store-bought. I want to repeat that. I am not telling any citizen of Birmingham to go out here and purchase anything. You can make something from your home. It can be a common household item like a scarf or a t-shirt or something homemade. We have references on how to make a homemade face covering at birminghamal.gov/coronavirus. And you can also find a list of frequently asked questions there as well. As recommended by the health community, children 2 and under do not have to wear a face covering. Of course, we want you to use common sense as well. If you're outside, you're exercising, running, walking your dog, etc., that's not needed. If you have a medical condition or any other underlying physical or mental issues, again, a mask is not needed or a face covering. If you're alone in your office, at your desk but alone, again, you don't have to wear it. We want you to balance common sense with following this ordinance. We believe the actions we've taken are not only a common sense approach, but it is the right thing to do under a state of an emergency where we still have things that are unanswered and don't have data to provide to our residents that things are safer. Many suggest the phased reopening means the COVID-19 risk is gone. Again, I repeat to you, this is not the case. Birmingham is the largest city in the state of Alabama, and there are a few things I want people to remember. Outside of the other 168 cities across the state, 1 in 5 people in this city are over the age of 60. Many people have underlying health issues such as diabetes, heart issues, lung and respiratory issues, and many other pre-existing conditions. Our state and our city have some very high issues here, and we're the 4th blackest city in America. When you take all of that into account, and when you add that those things have not been satisfied as it relates to data on the health aspect of this crisis, we cannot afford to let up. And that is why we have these 2 new ordinances in place to make sure we continue to provide safety measures for the general welfare of the citizens of Birmingham. This will not last forever, but in the short run, we must do what's necessary to protect the residents of this city. I want to thank the residents of this city for cooperating with us. We will get through this together. I urge you to continue to support your neighbors, and remember, together, as Birmingham, we are strong. Thank you. At this time, I turn it back over to Rick Journey, and we'll take any questions you all have.
Okay, I am going to unmute. Just a reminder that all the reporters that are on the call right now, please keep your phone muted until I call on you. We will begin with WBMA, ABC 3340. ABC 3340, do you have a question for the mayor?
Back up with such little data we have? And second, what is your response to Attorney General claiming that the city's mask ordinance is unconstitutional in some respects, and will you continue to implement it even with the new recommendations from the
That question, the first part of your question, believe how comfortable I am with our economy opening back up. The truth is, I'm hesitant for the following reason. I think as elected officials, every decision we make should be not only taking into account what our health experts are saying, but in addition to that, making sure that we have data to back up what our health experts are saying, to share with and submit to our residents we represent. Today, we don't have that. And because we don't have that, even with some things opening back up, such as retail, we need to strike a balance. The balance is pretty simple. We have a large retail community here in the city of Birmingham. And if it's going to be open back up, if employees are going to come back to work, then the truth is, because this data does not exist, then there's still fear and anxiety out here for a disease and virus we don't have all the answers to. So at a minimum, in addition to practicing 6 feet apart, we need to be honest and acknowledge a lot of places that are open for retail are not in a position to practice 6 feet apart. The next best thing we have are these face coverings that make sure if any saliva or spit or anything else comes out of your nostril or your mouth through sneeze, coughing, laughing, talking to the next person, that it does not get on that person, that it remains with you. So I would like to remind people, this is not about you. We don't have the luxury to be selfish. This is about the next person. And so this is a common sense approach and the best thing to do. Around the Attorney General's office and what he has shared with our office, I want to say this about Steve Marshall. Steve Marshall, we know each other. We were classmates in Leadership Alabama a few years back. We spent a year together as classmates in Leadership Alabama. In that year, we were both challenged to come up with solutions to solve problems here in Alabama. His approach and my approach today may be different, and that's okay. But him and I are both lawyers, and we both understand what we legally can and legally can't do. I understand his letter, and I've referenced his letter, and I've responded to his letter. But I want to remind the people of Birmingham that this is not political. And everything we've done, the ordinances we've created, the ordinances that the city council has voted on, is legal, it is sound, it is practical, and we have consulted with many folk. This is important because as it relates to this letter, I don't think any of us have the luxury to choose the conjunction or and say things that are either 100% dealing with the economic crisis or the health crisis. We have to use the conjunction and speak to both of those, the health crisis and the economic crisis. And wearing the face covers the spread of both, where we are easing back into relieving stress of the economic crisis. But at the same time, taking into account, we still have this health crisis here. This face cover gives us an extra layer and barrier to guard against the spread of the COVID-19. So any point of time, Steve Marshall and I want to engage. We both have each other's cell phone number. Him and I will continue to talk.
Our next question, WBHM, are you ready to ask a question of the mayor?
Hey, yeah, so I was hoping Henry Woodfin for Randall Woodfin with WBHM. I was hoping maybe you could talk a little bit more about the possible $500 fine and up to 30 days in municipal jail for violating the face covering. Can you talk a little bit more about that and whether the city of Birmingham is ready to enforce that and what that looks like?
The city of Birmingham is always ready and prepared to enforce any ordinance or law that exists. I want to also be clear about this. This is not about arresting people or putting people in jail. This is about making sure people comply with the law. And what I love about the people of this city is that most people voluntarily do the right thing. I am confident that most people in the city of Birmingham will voluntarily do the right thing because they are concerned about the person next to them, that because they also have some of the fear and anxiety that I share and others share, that they're willing to do things that are beyond their own self-interest. The other thing is this: just like our shelter-in-place ordinance that was 24 hours from March 24th up until April 30th, we've been pretty consistent as a city. Every ordinance we have ever put into place has an enforcement part to it that includes municipal law and how to enforce that. Here's what I can tell you. The city of Birmingham, as it relates to policing and enforcing, they do a really good job of educating the public. I imagine scenarios where some people may be in violation of this ordinance, and I am confident that our police will continue to engage that individual citizen or group of citizens or residents in the city about educating them on what this ordinance states, of what they can and can't do, and making sure people are in compliance. But we will move forward.
Okay, WBRC, Fox 6. WBRC, Fox 6. Do you have a question?
Hey, thanks, Rick. This is Josh Campbell, Fox 6. Thank you, Mayor, for taking my question. Question is, the Attorney General said that his office over the past 48 hours was overwhelmed with calls regarding the city's mask ordinance. I guess he said people are worried about fines or jail times. You just talked about enforcement in the city. Has your office received any complaints over the past 48 hours about this mask ordinance?
We've received probably about the same share of complaints we received when we enacted the stay-at-home shelter, the shelter-in-place ordinance, which we did 2 weeks before the state.
AL.com, are you ready for a question?
Yes, thank you, Rick. Mayor, how long will this mask ordinance be in effect, and also how long will the amended shelter-in-place curfew be in effect?
The new curfew from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. is set to expire along with the current state order, which expires May 15th. I can imagine a scenario if we have enough data around the gate criteria, around knowing that I can present to the public, around tracking and tracing, around testing availability, around data for cases as well as symptoms, then we'll be in a position, hopefully around that same time, to share with the public they are no longer need to wear face covers outside of their home.
WIAT, CBS 42, are you on the line? Do you have a question?
Yeah, this is Corey McGinnis of CBS 42. I have a two-parter. How will this be enforced with our homeless community? And what is the city doing just to make sure that there's adequate testing for everyone in all 99 neighborhoods?
So the first part of your question, there are exemptions to the several ordinances we put in place. For those in our homeless community, they are exempt from these ordinances. Around testing currently, we know in the city limits of Birmingham, there is a testing site over on the south side of town by UAB. In addition to that, there was an additional site placed in the Woodlawn neighborhood, as well as a site placed near the West End Community / Princeton Hospital. We've now moved into a phase where we've done mobile testing. In addition to that, BHAM Strong has created a platform that allows a call center for us to engage residents to let them know testing is available not only at these sites that are non-mobile, for the mobile sites as well. And there's been continued partnership with UAB and Jefferson County Health Office to continue to expand opportunity around testing. Testing is one of those 5 things we have to get right. In addition to that, I would like people to remember there are a lot of asymptomatic people in our community, children and adults, who may not know they have it. This face cover, again, is another option to make sure if people are asymptomatic and they are out in the public, they are out shopping for non-essentials, they are engaging retail, then at a minimum we can guard against and protect not only the clerk or the employee, but we can guard and protect and keep safe other customers as well.
Birmingham Times, is Birmingham Times on the line? Do you have a question for the mayor? WVTM TV 13, WVTM NBC 13, do you have a question for the mayor? I think I heard somebody. WVTM, are you on the line? Unmute and ask your question, please. Okay, let me open it up. Is there anybody on the line who has not had an opportunity to ask a question? If you have not had an opportunity to ask a question, please unmute and ask your question.
Hi, Mayor Woodfin. It's Miranda Fulmer again with WEBHM. Is this the extent of what you guys plan to enforce? Let's say things don't continue to get better. Is there anything else that you guys are maybe possibly in the works thinking of doing?
I think
Along those lines?
I think as it relates to our office in conjunction with the council, we're always listening to the health experts around what should we be doing. Is there more we can do to protect the citizens of Birmingham in the middle of a pandemic and health crisis? We will continue to listen to them and take recommendations from them. I would like to remind the people that are listening to this, there has been no decision we've made without the input of health experts. And every decision we make going forward, we will continue to have the input of the health experts in our community.
Chris Coleman of WATV. Chris Coleman, you're on the line. I understand you have a question. Okay, I just handed. So WATV is asking, has the mayor been in contact with other mayors in surrounding areas about enforcing the curfew and face covering law?
No, what I have been in contact with is I have been in contact with mayors across the state. I have a pretty great relationship with Mayor Frank Mercado of Hoover, and all of us continue to have conversations about what we deem, based on the conversations we're all having with local health experts, what we deem is in the best interest of the citizens we represent. But every mayor is different, every city is different, every county is different, and we have 169 cities across the state of Alabama. And when you think about how we're all situated either in urban, rural, or suburban Alabama, everything we do may look different, and that is okay. I think it's incumbent upon all mayors in the state of Alabama to continue to make decisions in conjunction with their council from the support and advice of the local health experts to share and communicate with their residents on what we should be doing to prevent this spread, to keep people from dying, and to keep from having a run on our local hospitals.
Let me ask once again, is there anybody on the line who has not asked a question that would like to, or is there a follow-up question? We hear somebody.
Mayor, this is Joshua over at Fox 6. Quick follow-up question. Something that the council, the resolution that they passed today regarding COVID-19 zip code data. We've done a few stories on this last week or so, but the council passed a resolution strongly encouraging the health department to release this zip code data by race, sex, age, and underlying health conditions. We know Mobile does it. We know other states do it by zip code. Do you want to see this information released?
I absolutely want to see this information released. I 100% agree with the council. I believe this resolution was submitted by Councilor Stephen Hoyt, and his entire, all of his colleagues support this resolution, and I support the resolution as well. Again, I think it's important to explain why. I just shared with you a minute ago that 1 in 5 people in the city limits of Birmingham are over the age of 60. So many have pre-existing health conditions, and so many are in poverty. In addition to that, when you have such a high population of black people, all of those things combined, we're talking about a population of citizens in our city who can not only contract this virus, but have a harder time recovering from it, or worse, die. It is important that this information is released so we can continue to provide information and data to our residents, but more importantly, be on the solutions end of how to address these issues and communicate to our residents, if you are vulnerable, these are the actions you should be taking. We need to share with our residents this information, and I call upon those who are in a position to provide this information. We're not asking you to violate any HIPAA laws. We're asking you to do the right thing like other cities and other states are doing in the nation by sharing this information. I think the council has a point. They're tired of asking, which is why they put this in the form they did today, and I 100% support it.
Okay, I'm gonna, last call for questions. Is there, and I would like to ask all the reporters who are on this line, stay on the line after this news conference ends, and I'll provide some information if there's any documentation that you still need. So hold on this line after this news conference is over with. But I do want to ask, is there any other question for the mayor?
Well, seeing none, I want to thank you all for being available, for allowing us to have this moment to share with our citizens the importance of still being under a local state of an emergency. Please follow the law and the rules. Protect yourself, but more importantly, be kind and protect those that are next to you as well. Everyone be safe. Thank you.